theyeshiva.net.
Pesachim Daf Ches Amud Beis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Gemarah brought on the bottom of Ches Amud Aleph a brisa which triggered a major discussion. And what did the brisa say? That we do not obligate the Jew to take his hand and put it into cracks and put it into holes in order to search for chametz, mipnei sakana, because of danger. What danger are we talking about? Can it be scorpions? Why are you using those cracks and holes? If there's scorpions there, why are you putting anything there? And if you're putting stuff there, you're putting away food or whatever else you're putting in, because you're not afraid of scorpions, so suddenly the night of B'dikas Chametz, you become afraid of scorpions. So the Gemara explained it's talking about, no, you use it throughout the year because it's a decent crack and a decent hole and it's a storage place. The problem is, it fell, it crumbled, it got destroyed, nafal. Now it became a heap of rubble, pile of garbage, pile of pebbles, rock, stone, filth, earth, gravel, soil. So the scorpions are attracted. That's the issue. So if the chametz is visible, you get rid of it, but you don't have to dig your hand into the crevices and nooks and crannies and holes because it's a sakon. It's chametz shenafla of mapoilas, which we said, regardless if the scorpions are not chametz, that a pile of rubble is covering it, is considered mavur, it's considered destroyed. He says, no, because here it's not a thick pile of rubble, 3 tefachim or more. It's a very shallow pile, and therefore you would think you would have to put your hands in. We say you don't have to. You don't know that there's chametz there. You don't have to do b'dikas chametz. Why? Because of the scorpions. So the Gemarah challenged this based on the idea of shluchei mitzvah. Rabbi Lazar taught us shluchei mitzvah einon nizoikin. And you can't tell me that he may have lost a needle and therefore he's going to search for it together with b'dikas chametz, because that would still not take away the power of the mitzvah of b'dikas chametz. So the answer that the Gemarah gave for this was, he may have lost his needle and he's going to search for it after b'dikas chametz, and that's the sakana we're concerned about. So the Gemarah now continues. Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak says, you misunderstood the brisa. Our whole problem with the brisa was, why is there a danger? So we explained the nafa, because it fell. Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak says, I'll explain to you an alternative explanation. The idea of danger is not that it got destroyed and it crumbled. It's still intact. If it's intact, why can't you do bdika in the holes and the cracks? Mishum sakanas hanochrim. We're referring to a different type of danger. The danger of the Gentiles. What's this danger? The Tanya Uflimohi. And this brisa was authored by a Tana named Plimu. It was a Tana named Plimu, and he is the one who authored this brisa. The Tanya, we have another brisa that will support it, and it will see the consistency. If you have an open hole in the wall and it perforates, it goes through from the wall of the Jewish home, and his neighbor who's an Aramoi, a Gentile. The Jew has to do b'dikas chametz in the crevice in the hole till as far as his hand can reach. V'hashar, and the rest of the chametz, which may be there but it's deeper down, mevatloi beliboy. There may be chametz there, so you do bittul belev, which means you nullify it in your heart, declaring it as earth and dust and ownerless, and you're good.
Is that shared wall owned by both of them?
Yes. The shared wall, yeah. Plimay says, I disagree. Kol atzmai einay boydek. You don't have to do bdika at all. The entire hole doesn't need bdika. Why? Because of danger. So we have now, you see what Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak did. We had a brisa, you don't have to stick your hands into holes for b'dikas chametz b'nei sakana. We wanted to know what that means, what type of danger. So he says we have another brisa that Plimu said, if you have a wall between a Jew and a Gentile, you don't have to do b'dikas chametz at all, even on your side, even where your hand could reach. Why? Mipnei sakana. So Reb Nachman bar Yitzchak says it's not talking about that the wall crumbled and there are scorpions. Nothing crumbled. There's no scorpions. There's a different type of sakana because here the wall is standing. It's between you and the Gentile's house. So therefore he says the first brisa is consistent with this brisa according to the view of Plimu, who says you don't need any b'dikas chametz. Frag the Gemarah, fine, but my sakana. We're back to the same question. Granted, but what's the danger? It's not snakes. It's not scorpions. The answer is, name if you're going to tell me, sakanas kshafim. Very interesting danger. Sakanas kshafim means you're going to be accused of doing voodoo, of doing black magic. That's the issue. In other words, suddenly he sees this man doing this whole formula called b'dikas chametz, and it's like, whoa, this is a dangerous situation. This is a sorcerer. What is he doing? And he may even think that the kishif, the magic, is against him. And it could create tremendous danger and contention. So the Gemara says, I guess that's what he meant. But the problem is, ki yishtamash heichi yishtamash. So then, how is he using the hole? In other words, he's using the hole. If he didn't use it, so then it's a place that you don't bring in chametz. Place you don't bring in chametz, you don't need b'dika. So it's a place that he uses. But if he's using it, so he's not afraid that the guy is going to see him, putting things in the hole and thinking it's kishuf. So why by b'dikas chametz, when he's also trying to look through the hole, is going to be kishuf? So he says, I'll explain to you. Plimu meant that this is the danger of sorcery. He's going to think that he's a black magician. So there's a big difference. Hasim, there, meaning throughout the whole year, kiyish damage, when the Jew is using this hole, it's yamam, it's during the day, unahoira, and it's light outside. Yes, you have a hole in between the walls, in the middle of the wall, so you put things in the middle of the day. The Gentile doesn't assume that it's magic. But hacha, there's something else going on. It's Laila, it's at night. Ushragahu, and he's using a candle. This is very, very suspicious. This guy is looking through his hole and suddenly he sees there's a Jew with a candle, very serious, at night, looking for things. So what is he going to assume? He never learned Masechta Pesachim for whatever reason. He doesn't know about B'dikas Chametz, he doesn't know about Tashbisu, and he's going to assume this guy is a dangerous guy.
Why wouldn't the Jew just tell the guy, listen, I have to stick my candle in our shared wall tonight because of my religious requirements?
You're an American lawyer. You're an American lawyer.
So he's got a neighbor. See, this goes on year after year, right?
If you have a neighbor and you have such relations with him, and he can respect your religion, and you can explain it to him, then you're right.
He's an adversary, you're saying, the neighbor.
Yeah.
He hates his Jewish neighbor.
Or even if not, but it's just a different world, and this. It's creepy for him. It's creepy.
So the guy is doing his kishuf, and he's
He may also be a bechasha for It's also a world based on myth. It was a world based on myth. There was so much myth going on.
In other words, they were chayshit to the Jews.
It doesn't mean that every neighbor is going to think so. It means that even if it's a suffix that it may happen, Plimu said just stay away. The same Chachamim who said do b'dikas chametz said here do not do b'dikas chametz. Remember, minat Torah bittul suffices. So we go back to the Torah requirement. You do bittul and you're good. Either maybe chametz in my wall, okay, there'll be chametz in your wall.
Doesn't the Brisa learn that the Jew has to do it until he can reach?
No, that's the first. The first time then Plimu's Brisa says you do it till you can reach, and the rest you do bittul. Plimu says kol atzmayene b'dik. Don't do any b'dik at all. The whole thing should be bittul. In other words, even in the first inches, connected. He disagrees with the whole thing. So Nachman Yitzchak says he is the author of the first brisa that don't stick your hands into walls or cracks, but pnei sakana. It's not talking about the wall fell, scorpion. It's talking about the wall is intact. That's how he interprets the brisa.
This you can learn with. You always have to worry about the guy, the things that you do. I'm saying. Well, some people say like
9/11. There were people putting on tefillin on airplanes, and people were so sensitive. They thought, they're strapping stuff on their bodies, and who knows what's the next step. Whenever I went on an airplane, it was a long journey, I had to daven. I called over the flight attendants, and I explained to them, because there was an emergency landing, and I think Atlanta, somebody put on tefillin, and they did an emergency landing. People got hysterical. I mean, Forget about, we all know what tefillin is, but just imagine, you're sitting in an airplane and somebody starts strapping themselves with strange things. It's like, we try to relax, but there's a part of us like, maybe it's time to say vidu, it gets queasy. And I realized it. I would call over the flight attendant, and I also spoke to the people around me. I just told them what I'm going to be doing, so they could be relaxed. It's just important because, we don't realize what it looks like, but for somebody who never saw it before.
These people put them in, they asked them what's going on, and they wouldn't talk.
Right. That was another issue. Yeah. Exactly. They asked them what's going on, and they wouldn't talk. They would have loved davening. So now they're not even answering. So what does that mean? Again, everybody sees the world through their prism. We know he's not talking because in the middle of davening. He said Baruch Shabar. But they say he's not talking because he's a terrorist.
Was this before or after the guy that put explosives in his shoe?
Yeah, I'm saying. We interpret reality based on our perspective. It always goes back to that. You got to figure out the net.
Even like davening in an airport, sometimes you feel funny. Even if by yourself, let's say. Nobody else is even there.
Yeah, okay, listen, sometimes it also inspires people. It works both ways, yeah?
How does it, our man see the yid on...
Oh, how he sees.
Maybe the hole's big enough.
First of all, it may be a nice big hole. I'm sitting and, he may be reading his newspaper at night, and suddenly he sees this candle going, this Jew is a real frum guy, so B'dikas Chametz takes a long time. And he's like, what is going on here? 911. He may even think the kishuv is directed towards him too, Rashi says, Kol atzmai eine boidik, kol atzmai shel chur eine boidik, shel hayomer hanachri, kshafim oiseli. In other words, the Gentile may not care that the Jew is doing his black magic with his God, but this is oiseli. Why? Let him do it in his house. Why is he coming through the wall? This means he may want to be doing something to me, which will only increase the danger that he may want to do something to the Jew. So they took out the chiyuv they exempted you from the chiyuv of B'dikas Chametz. Asks the Gemara, okay, so we have either sakanas akrov, the scorpion, or sakana of the neighbor who may be suspicious that you're doing voodoo on him. But we come back to the question. What about back to the Rebbe Lazar, who told us that shluchim mitzvah, a Jew who's going to do a mitzvah, he's on a mission to do a mitzvah, he doesn't have to be concerned that he's going to be damaged and harmed. What are you going to say now? Now, we can't answer what we answered before. What we answered before is you got a pile of rubble, and you lost your needle, and your needle is somewhere in the rubble, and you got to go dig and search for it, and you think, I'm doing B'dikas Chametz anyway, right? So let me do, when people do, a lot of people, it's called Pesach cleaning, right? It's Pesach cleaning, but it's also house cleaning. I was just thinking, the mashal with the needle is actually pretty relevant, because a lot of people, we call spring cleaning, and a lot of us put spring cleaning already together with Pesach cleaning. You're checking for the chametz. Why don't you already organize the house? Okay, it's not mamish because we don't do it during B'dikas Chametz, but a lot of times the weeks before Pesach, you're already busy organizing the house, because why not? You're already checking the bookcases for Chametz. Check the books for other shmatas and satzkas, and once you're doing that, put the pictures into albums. And once you're doing that, get rid of all the filth behind the refrigerator. And once you're doing that, sell the house. Whatever. How Jews think. But the bottom line is here, it's not the situation. What do you mean the needle got lost? Where did it get lost? There's a hole here. But if you know about a needle, check. If it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. It's not a whole B'dikas Chametz for the needle. So what's the issue of Shluchei Mitzvah Einon Nizoikin? Why does it not play a role? So the Gemara says a new answer. Heiche de Shchia Chazeka Shiny. When Rebbe Lazar said Shluchei Mitzvah Einon Nizoikin, he was not referring to go to a place where Hezek is common and ignore it because Shluchei Mitzvah. Where the nezek, where the hazard is common, it's natural, it's frequent, shiny, it's a different situation. In other words, the shliach mitzvah shouldn't say, I'm doing a mitzvah and therefore it's completely fine. What's the proof of this? Shenemar, very interesting proof. Shenemar, before we get to the point. So Plimu believes that this is a concept of Shchia Chazeka. But it may explain why Tanakama argues with Plimu. And he said that you could do B'dikas Chametz, because maybe he believes that the guy suspecting you of Kishiv is not Shchia Chazeka. It's not a common hezek. So mainly you could say Shluchim Mitzvein in Ezeikin. Again, why didn't the Gemara answer this earlier with the pile of rubble? It could be that the Gemara believed that to assume that there's a scorpion here is not called Shchia Chazeka. It may be, but it's not called Shchia Chazeka, because since the wall, it's not a pile of rubble that's been here for years. It may have fallen just recently, because throughout the year, if you didn't use it for chametz in the last year, then of course you don't have to do b'dikas chametz. You had to use it for chametz at some point. So it didn't fall long ago. So maybe they feel that it's not Shchia Chazeka that there are scorpions. It may be, it may not be. That's why they don't exempt you. Only mipnei hasakana. You don't say Shchia Chazeka. You should have said Shchia Chazeka. So there's no Shluchim Mitzvah. The Gemara didn't say that. Why? The Gemara said it's because of the needle. Because maybe they felt it's not Shchia Chazeka. However, here, Plimu holds that this is Shchia Chazeka. Shenema, the Pasuk says, Shmuel Aleph, Perik Tazayah. Shaul HaMelech was the king of the Jewish people. Shaul was dethroned by the Rebbeinu Shalom because of major blunder when it came to the war against Amalek, which he did not have the courage to execute till the end, and he lost his melucha, his kingship. Shmuel HaNavi was the prophet of the time. He is the one who chastised Shaul. And the Navi describes there how Shmuel mourned. Shmuel appointed Shaul as a melech. So for Shmuel, it was very painful to see Shaul, who was such a great man, who lost the throne in the eyes of God. And the Pasuk says that Shmuel mourned for Shaul. For a long time, he mourned for this, what happened. And then Hashem tells Shmuel, stop mourning. Perik Tazayin, Shmuel Aleph Perik Tazayin, chapter 16 of Samuel 1, stop mourning. Go to Yishai, who lived in Beis Lechem, and coronate one of his sons as a king. This would, of course, be David HaMelech. He doesn't realize it immediately, because Yishai had 8 sons, and first he thought it's the older ones, and he coronated, he tried with the first 7, and God said, no, and then it was the youngest, the shepherd David, who was coronated that day by Shmuel. Now at this point, it was all top secret, because Shaul was still the king. It's not like he wasn't the king. He remained the king for a long time, until he would kill himself by the war with the Philistines at the end of Shmuel. But at this point, in the eyes of God, the Melucha changed, even though it took a long time till it materialized. Shaul remained the king till his death. So what happens now? When Hashem tells Shmuel, take a jug of oil, go to Yishai to Beis Lechem, and take one of his sons and appoint him as a king. So now we quote, Vayomer Shmuel, Shmuel said, Eich Elech, how am I going to go to coronate Ben Yishai? V'shama Shaul v'haragani. Shaul will hear about it and he will murder me. He will kill me. Going to appoint another king? This is treason. So how can I go? Hashem says, go coronate one of Yishai's sons. Eich Elech. V'shama Shaul v'haragani. Vayomer Hashem. So Hashem says, Eglas bakar tikach biyadecha v'goymer. Take a calf and go to Beis Lechem, and you're going to say that you came to offer a carbon. Lisboyach laHashem basi. So even if Shaul confronts you, you have a calf. You have a calf, you say, what are you doing here? I came to offer a carbon. And then you'll invite Yishai to the carbon, to the meal, and then you will coronate the son that I will tell you. So basically, he told him, take a calf, go to Beis Lechem, offer it as a carbon shlamim, because if it's a carbon oila, then you can't invite anybody to a meal. It's a carbon shlamim, it's going to be a meal. At that time, even though the Mishkan was a noiv, but it was a time when the Bamais were mutter, meaning you could be makriv, a personal carbon, on an altar, a private altar, even outside of the Mishkan. That's how you can do it. You'll invite Yishai to the festive meal of the carbon, and Shmuel was a big personality. If anybody asks you, the king or anybody else, where you're going to offer a carbon to Hashem, and that way Shul will not discover the true intent of your journey.
How long was the bomb? Just out of curiosity, the public ignore it.
Yeah, as long as the Mishkan, at the end of Masechta Zvachim, the Mishnah says, as long as the Mishkan was in Noiv and Givoin, right? So the Bamais was still mutter.
Rambam, I think, deals with the question of how long each one was in its place. In other words, this was not a long period in Noiv. This was a transition.
Right, transitional period, yeah. Now, just to say this, I'm going to do a carbon would not be true. He took a carbon. It was part of the purpose. It wasn't the only purpose, but it was part of the purpose to take a carbon. What do we see from here? Shluchim mitzvah and nezoikin. So shluchim mitzvah and nezoikin, you're going on a shluchis to do a mitzvah because Rebbeinu Shalom sent you to do it. So why are you asking Eich Eilech? Why are you afraid of Shul? And Hashem agrees, and He tells you an eitzah. God should have said, you don't believe Rebbe Elazar that shluchim mitzvah and nezoikin? He gives him an eitzah. That's the question. So we see from here that it's not always a blanket rule, shluchim mitzvah and nezoikin. It's shchiach hazeka. You have a king, you're going to usurp the crown from him. To coronate David, it's a dangerous situation. And b'meila, you should find an eitzah al pi derech hateva to protect yourself.
What was Shaul that he was so broken, B'shas Ma'aseh, when the Navi told him you did wrong, and that this is not too long?
Because Shaul was a big tzaddik. Here's an interesting vart I saw today. I looked it up this morning in the Degel Machen Ephraim. Degel Machen Ephraim is a sefer that was written by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Ephraim of Sedlikov. He was a grandson of the Baal Shem Tov. And in Parshas Veschanon, and in Parshas Tzav, he says something that he heard himself from his grandfather on this Gemarah. It's a very, very moving insight. Baal Shem Tov asked a simple question: why are you afraid? God never told you to publicize this. It can all be done in top secret. In other words, nobody has to know anything. Nobody has to know, right? You see a person traveling, Shaul sees you traveling. He's going to want to kill you, he's going to suspect. If anything, the problem is on the way back, after it happened already. The way there, no one even knows. The way back, Yishai knows, and as you know, as Nayim L'Kaisel, Oifas Hashemayim L'Chzakal, once you tell a secret to three people, right, everyone has a best friend. We all know that. David knows, and Yishai knows, the wife knows, and this one knows, and everyone has a secret, and before you know it, some guy comes to Shaul and tells him, and Shaul might chase Shmuel and kill him. Fine. But he says, Eich Eilech v'shama Shmuel v'aragoni. How can I go? That's not the problem. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. So when you see somebody traveling somewhere, Shmuel came to Beis Lechem, right? Came to Beis Lechem. Shaul was in the palace. Like, why are you afraid of going? When you're going, it's not a problem. It's a secret. God didn't say, walk and tell everybody, I'm going to coronate David. I'm going to coronate David. People show up in places. He says, the main thing is when you're coming back, how can I come back? When I'm there, it'll be good. When I come back, it's going to be a problem. So he said, I heard from my grandfather. The Rambam says in Hilchas Malachim, Hamelech hu leiv kol Yisrael. That's how he defines a king. The king is the heart of the Jewish people. The heart feels what's going on. He says, when you're a king, a real Melech Yisrael, a real Manig Yisrael, a real leader of the Jewish people, it's like the heart in the body, the brain in the body, right? It's the king is called Rosh B'nai Yisrael, and the king is called Lev B'nai Yisrael. You know and you're cognizant. You'll ask a question, how do you know when something happens to your pinky? I don't know when something happens to your pinky, but you know. Because a brain knows everything that goes on in the body. If you're a brain, you know everything. If you don't know one thing, you're not a brain. So he says a real Melech Yisrael, he knows, he feels it. So when Shmuel is going to be Moshiach David, maybe nobody else knows. But Shaul knows it. He says that's only the way there. The way back, he's not a king anymore. The way back, he's not the king anymore. Because the Rebbeinu Shalom transferred the crown to David HaMelech. Even if it's not, didn't happen yet politically, but it happened in the real reality. So Mele, he was worried about the way there. He says, Leiv HaMelech Margish feels what's happening with Klal Yisrael. A real Manig Yisrael, wherever he is, he feels what's going on with every part of Knesset Yisrael. Every part. So it could be top secret, but for him it's not top secret.
But Shaul had issues. He suffered melancholy.
This is before.
This is before.
Yeah.
Saying, right?
That's true.
Doesn't he?
Right after this, the Tanakh describes how Shaul was started to experience melancholy, a ruach ra, and he hired David to play the harp in his presence to calm him down. And I guess also, listen, from his perspective, maybe Morid b'malchus is chayev misa.
Was he more at this point what he was doing? Because
yeah, it could be that's what he felt.
So Shaul would have been justified.
Perhaps, yeah, perhaps. Shaul didn't want the job. Shaul was really a humble person. It's sad what happened over there.
He killed because he was...
Exactly. He had this compassion, and he was a very sensitive person, apparently, very delicate.
He listened to the people, and...
He listened to the people. He couldn't kill the sheep and the animals and Agag. He felt compassion for animals, right? He felt compassion for the animals. But here I want to raise a very interesting question Mefarshim raise. The Gemara is proving that shluchei mitzvah einan izoikin doesn't mean when shchicha. Thank you. When shchicha hazek, right? When the hezek is common, and that's why he was so afraid of Shaul. So that's why he comes to Hashem and says, "Eich elech, how am I going to go?" What's it? And God doesn't know this. Rabbi Lazar, the Gemara knows that Hashem doesn't know. And Hashem also knows that shluchei mitzvah einan izoikin is not when shchicha hazek. I'm sending you to do something. I'm sending you to do something. So Hashem sends you. Think about your even not Shmuel Hanavi. Think about a regular Jew. Hashem directly, not through a shliach, directly summons you and says, "I want you to go on a shlichus here and there and there." And in your mind, you're like, but if God is good for anything, He should be good for this at least. It's His world. Shmuel says, wait, God, Hashem, wait. Let's think this through. This doesn't make sense. Whatever. So the Gemara says, because, and Hashem said, you know what? Oh, you're right. You're right. Shluchim mitzvah nezek, it doesn't apply here. And what was Hashem thinking? What was Shmuel thinking Hashem is thinking? Hashem told you to go. So it's a very interesting question. I wanted to share with you two insights that I saw. I saw it in the Biyurim in the Mesifta Gemara here. One is from Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin has a sefer called Pri Tzadok. In Parshas Tzav, he says the following answer. He says, take a look at Shmuel's words. Vayomer Shmuel said, Eich Elech. How do we teach Eich Elech? How can I go? Like, this is crazy. Like, you send your child somewhere. How can I go? How can I do this? Really, the word eich is how. How should I go? Not how can I go? How, elech. How should I go? So the Pri Tzadok, Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin says as follows. Shmuel HaNavi says to himself, Hashem sent me on a shlichus. Yeah? I don't know what that shlichus is. I don't have questions. He knows his world better than me. Maybe he wants I should go on Mesiras Nefesh. Maybe that's what he's sending me on a shlichus to go on Mesiras Nefesh, to sacrifice my soul. He said, you go appoint Shul. Maybe the kavanah is Shul should kill me. Maybe Shul should try to kill me and I'll get saved. Maybe Shul should try to kill me and I shouldn't get saved. I don't know. So he asked, Eich Elech. How do you want me to go? What's the nature of this shlichus? Because sometimes Hashem wants person, he's sending him on a shlichus for Mesiras Nefesh. Sometimes not. Sometimes he's sending him on a shlichus. He sent Moshe to Parai. He also could have been killed, but he didn't want Moshe to be killed by Parai. He wanted miracles should happen. Sometimes Hashem wants you should go, fulfill a shlichus, and do it b'derech hateva. Do things according to nature. It should be able to be successful. So Shmuel says, Eich Elech. I just want to know, Vizalech gain. How am I supposed to go? What type of way am I supposed to go? Is the kavanah to go with Mesiras Nefesh? That's fine. I'll go. No problem. Not Eich Elech. How should I go? What are you thinking, God? Eich Elech. Vizalech gain. How do you want me to go? Should I just go with Mesiras Nefesh? Gesundheit? Or do you want I should do something in order to bring it into Derech HaTeva. So that's what the Rebbeinu Shalom told him. I don't want you to go on Mesiras Nefesh. Eglas bakar tikach biyadecha. We want to do it through the vehicles of nature. The Gemarah Rebbe, the Imrei Emes said, I was last night by his grandson. Gemarah Rebbe is here, so I was a little while by him. We had a little schmooze. The Imrei Emes says as follows. This is a real Chassidish art. It's a real Chassidish art from the Imrei Emes. Like a starke Wort. He says as follows. He said that Hashem knew everything. He would have saved Shmuel. It wasn't an issue. He sent Shmuel to coronate David. He didn't want him to be killed. It would have all been good. The problem was Shmuel asked. Hashem would have saved him, nothing would have happened. Because he asked, Eich Elech. So Hashem says, oh, you're asking? Okay, now we need already a whole trick. You hear? Because you're asking, already your mind changes the reality. This is what we learned earlier. If you don't ask, what are you worried? It's my world. Nobody's going to kill you. Because you asked, you created the fear. There's trach gut with zayin gut, and there's the other way around. So now we got to figure out a trick. It's the question, Eich Elech, that caused the answer. Eglos bakach tikach biyadach. Very powerful word. You hear the word? He wouldn't have asked, it wouldn't have been an issue. He asked. So he said, ooh, now already you're not in the realm of miracles. Now it's already a different world. Now it's a world of Teva. You're afraid, you're concerned. You're not in my world. You're in your own world. If you're in your own world, Eglas bakach tikach biyadach. Okay, now we got to manipulate the situation al pi Teva. It's a word. It's a serious word. Okay.
I was looking at my notes from the Gemarah shir, and I thought I have the wrong notes. This is a Hasidic shir.
The whole Torah is one. The whole Torah is one.
This would be an example where you could get a Musser from a shtetl Gemarah.
Yeah, that's what the Imrei Emes says in his Sefer. Emer Tafrish Samachay. There's a Sefer, the Leshem, great Kabbalist, Rav Eliyashiv's was an Einikel, Shari HaLeshem. So he says that Shmuel didn't doubt Hashem, how he's going to be saved. God told you to do it. It's fine. I'm not worried. He also wasn't afraid that Shaul is going to kill him, because he knew that Shaul is a tzaddik. He doesn't just kill. However, he was hurt for the suffering of Shaul HaMelech. When he senses or he finds out that he came to Beis Lechem to coronate a new king, not his child, not a relative. Later, David would become a son-in-law, but he wasn't a relative. The pain that it's going to cause to Shaul that in his lifetime, it's very painful to take away the Melucha from him. So he asked an Eitzah. He asked an Eitzah from Hashem. What should I do in order to be able to ease the pain? So this he said, take an Eglas Bakar and tell him you're coming to do a carbon.
Literal?
That's what I didn't understand what the Leshem means, because he said V'shama Shaul V'haragoni. So Shama Shmuel, unless it means like he'll want to kill me, it's just going to be so hurtful for him. Literally, it means he's going to kill me. The pasuk says V'haragoni, he's going to kill me. So you are afraid he's going to kill you. Right? So he's saying, no, he was just trying to ease his pain. Maybe it meant Vaharagani, like, he'll want to kill me. In other words...
What he was saying is not consistent with the line.
Right. But this is what the Leshem says, yeah. This is what the Leshem says. Okay. So as a result of this, we have concluded that there's a concept called sakana, and therefore, Klimu says, do not do b'dikas chametz. Says the Gemarah Bo Minei Rav. They asked a question from Rav. Hani b'nei bei Rav. B'nei bei Rav means young students who learn in the yeshiva. And they need a teacher. They can't learn on their own. They need a rebbe. They're young students. The Darei Beboge. They live in a valley, and the valleys are in little towns. There were little towns with fields and valleys, remote locations where these kids lived. They wanted to be on time, and they wanted to be there a whole day. So how are you in yeshiva on time? Yeah? So it's not like yeshiva today starts at 9:30 or 8:30 or 9 o'clock. They had to be there already by Alois HaShachar, by dawn break. That means they have to walk when it's dark. So Ma'ula Mesa, they're allowed to go Kadma, early, V'chashoicha, when it's dark, L'Bei Rav, to the yeshiva. In other words, they have to go, leave their homes to the Beis Medrash before dawn break when it's dark. They want to leave home after the day is over, so they're going home when it's dark. So the question is, do we say shluchei mitzvah einan nizoikin? They don't have to worry. Even though it's dark outside, they could still go to the Beis Medrash because they're going to learn. Or maybe they should only leave to the Beis Medrash and leave from the Beis Medrash during daytime. That's the question. Rashi says, B'nei Bei Rav, Talmidim atzrichim l'Rabba madayin karu B'nei Rav. Talmidim who still need a Rebbe are called B'nei Rav, the children of a Rebbe. So these are the B'nei, the children of Bei Rav, of the yeshiva of the Rebbe, because they need a Rebbe. The Dairu Bebagi, B'kfarim, Shebabiko, Balaz, Knafi, they live in various villages in the valleys. Ma'al Mesa Kaduma v'Chashoicha, Hashkim v'Hariv, Koidem alei Sashachu, Mishatechshach, Klum Yeshlam Lirim and Amazikim. Do they have to worry from the Mazikim, the various damaging forces that lurk in darkness? Amar Lahu, Rav answered. This was a question of Rav about these young Talmidim. Amar Lahu, Nesu, let them come. They could wake up early before dawn and walk in the dark to the Beis Medrash. Alive al tzavari. It's on me and on my neck, as we say. My responsibility. Rashi says, al tzavari ye oyna shazeka. You'll say, the punishment of them being harmed is on me. What does it help? Because very nice. I'll get punished. Thank you. The vadai lo yazuku. That's his point. Alive al tzavari doesn't mean, in other words, it's on me because I know it's good. Shah mitzvah megin alayim, the mitzvah protects them. So they asked him, okay, you said nesu, they should come. Nazel? What about leave? Nesu is come, nazel is leave. Nazel mai. What about going back? Because going back, they're not going to learn. They're going back home. Amaluhu, Rav said, lo yedayna, I don't know. Interesting. You can learn a lot. There, it's on me. The way back, I don't know. Lo yedayna. Maybe they have to leave early. I don't know. Itmar, we learned. Amar Rebbe Lazar. Rebbe Lazar said, Shluchei mitzvah ein nizoikin loy b'alichasim v'loy b'chazirasa. So obviously Rebbe Lazar was of clear opinion that Shluchei mitzvah will not get damaged, not going and not coming back after the mitzvah, even though they're not going to do the mitzvah. Why? Because that's also considered part of the mitzvah. Because you got to go back home. Right, the Hatzalah member takes the ambulance to the hospital, but he can't stay in the hospital forever. He has a home. You got to go back home. So shluchei mitzvah einen nizoikin loy b'alichasin v'loy b'chaziros. Even though you're technically not going to do a mitzvah, but it's part of the package deal because, as a result of the mitzvah, he came here. So you got to go. So it's part of it. Rashi, Nazel, Ushpiza Mishatechshach. Can they go back to their home, to their residence? Ushpiza means where you stay, where you live. When it gets dark. My Klumi Chaylan Lismachala Mitzvah B'Chazorah. Rav said he doesn't know, but Rebbe Lazar taught us that it's fine. Come on. Rebbe Lazar, who says Shluchei Mitzvah don't get harmed either way. Whose opinion is he following? You see, Rav said he doesn't know. But Rebbe Lazar, Tained, that what? that it's true that you don't get nizik. Whose opinion was he following? Kahai Tana. He follows the view of a Tana. The Tanya, we had a Braisa, Isi ben Yehuda, Isi ben Yehuda says, Klape Shamra Torah, the Torah says, Shalosh Pa'amim Bashana, let's do the whole pasuk. The Torah says, Perik Lamadalit of Shmois, Shalosh Pa'amim Bashana, 3 times a year, Yeira Kol Schurchas Pnei Adon Hashem. Every male should go up and see Hashem. The mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, you have to go to the Mishkan and to the Beis HaMikdash. Continues the pasuk, V'lo yachmoid ish es artzecha, ba'alois chalaros es pnei Hashem alekecha. If you have the psukim on the side, you have the pasuk, Lo yachmoid ish es artzecha. Fascinating pasuk. No man will crave your land when you go up to see the face of Hashem 3 times a year. What is this talking about? Tremendous concept. Think about it. It came Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot. Eretz Yisrael emptied out. Every thief in the world, every ganev, every hostile nation comes in, the neighborhoods are open. Everybody had a mitzvah of kol schurcha. You couldn't say we're going to leave a few Jews to protect it. If you're a male, over bar mitzvah, you're mechuyev. If you're a cotton, you may be mechuyev. Mitzad chinuch, the Mishnah beginning of Chagiga. So basically, Eretz Yisrael was now completely vulnerable. You're going to go to Yerushalayim, you're going to be there for 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 8 days, whatever it is. You're going to come back. Rachmana litzlan, you don't have a country left. So there was a special promise. Lo yachmoid ishes artzecha. Nobody is going to crave your land. Which stam derech agav, it's not so negeya. In our emunah shiurim, I once discussed this, and I said, if people often ask, how you know Torah is true and so forth. So, but these psukim are very interesting because think about it. If you were to fabricate a document, like many religions do, in the name of God, God told me this and this and this, like many religions, you heard from God, and you want people should look at the document and believe it. The first thing you have to make sure is don't put anything in the document that's going to prove that you're a liar. You don't do that. You got to be stupid. You talk about things that will not prove you're a liar. One of the worst things Moshe Rabbeinu could have done is tell the Jews all these types of statements that the moment it doesn't happen, it's like you lied. For example, Shemitah, leave your fields, don't plant, don't sow, don't harvest, don't sell. It's hefker, it's ownerless. V'chisoimru, you're going to say, Manoichal, what are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? I have to eat. It's ownerless. Everybody can come into my field. This is my food. This is my source of revenue. And the answer is, V'tzivisi es berchasi, Bashana Hashish, is going to be so much produce in the 6th year. It's going to last for the 6th year. It's going to last for the 7th year. It's even going to last for the 8th year, because the 8th year you also have to eat still from the 7th year till it grows. The new crop grows. So he says berchasi. The first Shemitah, Jews would see, this is ridiculous. Moshe can't manipulate the weather. Moshe is not in charge of global warming. He's not in charge of climate change. His name is not Al Gore. Moshe Rabbeinu can't. How do you, a miracle could produce that on the 6th year there's going to be, here's a, nobody's going to want your land, really? The first Pesach, they come home and it's like ransacked, and suddenly Syria is here. It's over. So these are things you don't put into a document, because you got to be crazy. You're promising things that you can't promise, unless, of course, if you could promise it, because you're taking dictation from the master of the world. So this is a very interesting pasuk. You can go up, don't worry. Said Isi ben Yehuda Malamed, this teaches us, your cow, your bull, your ox could graze in the meadow. Ba'afar means in the fields where they pasture, where they graze, without supervision. You could let your cows and oxen graze. Ve'ein chaya mazikos. Usually, cattle need protection. Remember, again, we're not used to this in our communities here, but Monsey, 70 years ago, even 40 years ago, they understood this very well. Yeah, I was the other day on Spook Rock. Somebody has their little farm, and he tells me the foxes come and take his chickens and take his roosters. You have chayas coming, they're going to kill all the cattle. No, you're fine. You could go to the Beis Hamikdash. Your cows will be just fine. Next. Your chickens can, how does he translate menakeres? Pick in the garbage heap. You don't have to worry that a weasel will come and damage it or kill it. You don't have to worry about these things. So even though all the males went up to Yerushalayim, and the females were busy with the babies, and generally were not part of the troops who were protecting the land, nobody will remain on the borders to protect the country. The Torah promises that during the Shalosh Regalim, nobody is going to want to come do Milchama. That's what the Pasuk says. But here, Isi ben Yehuda adds something. Not only will they not conquer your lands, even your cows and your chickens will remain safe. How do they know this? How does Isi ben Yehuda know this? So take a look in Tosfos. Very interesting. Take a look in Tosfos. Malamet shetei peros charoya ba'afar umei es kadarish es artzecha hatafel artzech. The pasuk says v'lo yachmoid ish es artzech. It could have said lo yachmoid ish artzecha. Whenever it says es is always for a drash. That which is an accessory to artzecha, not the land itself, but that which is part of the land. What's part of the land? The cattle, the chickens, the animals that hang out. They live on the earth. They live from the earth. They pasture in the earth. They graze on the earth. That's es artzach. Just like we say, kabed esavicha is achicha agadol, your older brother. Just like we say, v'rachatz es psare b'mayim. You should put your flesh in the water, bathe your flesh in the water. Es psare means even your hair. Es hatafel psare, that which is, it's not only your flesh that has to be in the mikveh. Even the hair which is tafel. So Tosfos says, lo yachmedish es artzecha, that which is tafel artzach. Without the es, you would say, God says, the land I'm going to protect. Nobody will conquer the land, the real estate. But your chickens, may die. Okay. Oh, fine, they'll die. They die. Hopefully you'll get new chickens. He says, no. Es artzecha, everything that's tafel artzecha is also going to be protected. Beautiful, beautiful pshat and Tosfos. The only question you have to ask on Tosfos, it says, v'lo yachmoid ish es artzecha. And here we're talking about weasels and wolves and cheetahs and tigers and lions. It says, v'lo yachmoid ish es artzecha. We're talking about chayis royas, or weasels that are going to come be mazik. But the truth is that the word ish, even though we refer to it as men, as people, we see in Chumash that can apply also to animals. How do we know? By Parshas Noach, it says, "Mikola behema tahira tikach lecha shiva shiva." Taken all the pure animals to the teva, right? 7. You have groups of 7 of kosher animals, and he says, "Ish v'ishtoi." A man and his wife. So the Rashash, and this Gemarah says, here we see that ish can also refer to an animal. Ish es artzecha. On one level, the pasuk means no man will want to conquer your land. On another level, it means ish, no animal will want to crave es artzecha, to damage or eat up another animal. Very nice word from the Rashash. Ish v'ishtoi. Parshas Noach. It's interesting. Ish v'ishtoi on animals. Huh?
If the ish means animals too.
Also animals. Not the first layer is Pashat. Lo yachmid ish es artzecha. Right? The Marsha also says a word. Can I just? I'm sorry, I asked your Gemarah. I just want to. Yeah. The Marsha says that there's a nice lashon. The Marsha says it's a little different. The Marsha says that what Tosfos says, es hatafel, it seems dachok, difficult. So he says, I think the pshat in Gemarah is different. Lo yachmid ish es artzecha is a very strange pasuk, because usually one man doesn't conquer another country. A nation conquers a country. An army conquers a country. Lo yachmid ish es artzecha refers more to a ganav. Basically, a man who wants your house, but then it shouldn't be artzecha. Artzecha is your land. It should be lo yachmid ish es beischa. Basically, when everybody goes away for Yom Tif, the ganovim come out. So it's lo yachmid ish es beischa. It says lo yachmid ish es artzecha, but if it's artzecha, it's not ish. It's a nation. It's a country. Usually, one man is not conquering a country himself. It's a government. It's a regime. So he says. That's the problem here. That's the problem here in the pasuk. So he says that's why he says that it doesn't say lo yachmid ish es beischa, because The Ganav doesn't take the real estate. The Ganav takes metaltalin. He can't. A regime, a government, an army could take the real estate. They settle the country and they don't let you come back. So it's artzecha. A Ganav can't do that. He can go into your house and steal everything. So it's not artzecha, it's beischa. So why would it say, and ish means an individual Ganav? So why does it say ish is artzecha? So from here the Gemara learns that it's not only beischa, it's even artzecha, meaning what's artzecha? He can't take away the eretz. It would mean he takes away the para. He takes away the tarnagel, and there's no mazik. The challenge is that the Gemara says that it's a chayira that's not mazik. He says that it's going on the ganav. Lo yachmid ish as artzecha would go on the ganav. But that's how the Marsha learns. Okay, I'll call upon him. So what do we see from here? V'aloi kal v'chaymer, dvarim kal v'chaymer. This is where Rebbe Lazar learned his yisoid. Ma elu shedarkan lizik einan izaykin madach animals, cows and chickens, which get frequently hurt and killed when there's no security. The Torah says they will not get damaged when you go to Yerushalayim. B'nei adam shein darkan lizik. Humans, that it's harder for them to get damaged. Alachas kama v'kama, certainly when they go for a mitzvah, you won't get damaged. So from here, we have the yisoid of shluchei mitzvah einan izaykin. When you're on a mitzvah, even your animals won't get damaged. Certainly the person himself. That's the kal v'chaymer. That's the kal v'chaymer. What's pshat? The person is less likely to get mazik from an animal. So Rashi says, klapi shamra Torah. Mitoich shamra Torah kach anu lemeiden sheivtichei akasuv shelo yuzak mamoinoi. Torah says when you're doing a mitzvah, your money won't get hurt. V'kol sheken gufay, the ein darkei lizak, the adam islay mazola, ve'einoi moyer liyos nizak begufay. Famous Gemarah in Baba Kama, adam islay mazola, behemen lesla mazola. An adam has a mazel. Literally what that means, Rashi says in Baba Kama, is a person has a consciousness and a mind to be able to protect themselves in a way that an animal can't. Because animals also protect themselves, but their instincts are very limited to the reality they're used to. A person, as we know, can contrive and scheme and figure out stuff in a way that allows us to protect ourselves much better than animals, which is why we rule the world. So therefore, that's one level of mazel. Rashi in Shabbos says mazel is a guardian angel that a person has, like a mazel that protects you that an animal doesn't have. However, you taichet, a person has mazel, and therefore it's not so easy for a person to get genizik. So for sure, if shluchei mitzvah won't affect even your animal, it won't affect you. This only teaches you the way there when you're going to do the mitzvah. Because it says, Lo yachmed ishas artzecha ba'aloischa, when you go up to the Beis HaMikdash and you're there. But what about b'chazorim enayin? What about when you're coming back, you finish the mitzvah? Which that was the issue, because Rabbi Lazar said, both ways there's no damage. Talmud Loimar, the pasuk says in Parshas Re'eh, let's quote the whole pasuk, Ubishalta, you should cook the carbon Pesach, V'chalta b'makom asher yivcha Hashem alakecha boy, eat it in the place that Hashem chooses, Ufanisa ba'boiker, in the morning after Pesach, you will turn home, V'halachta la'oi halecha, and you'll go back to your tent. You'll go back to your tent. In other words, the pasuk is telling us when you makro the carbon Pesach, you have to stay over the night in Yerushalayim, and only the next day can you go home. Now we all know where you're going to. You're going home. Where should you go? Where should you go? To the bowling alley? To the pizza shop? What's v'halachta la'oi halecha? You go to your tent, and what if you want to go to your friend's tent? V'alachta lo yalecha malamed, this teaches you shetelech v'timtza alecha b'shalom. The Torah is promising you're going to have a tent to go back to. When you come back after this long, extended spiritual vacation, you're going to have a tent. The tent is going to be waiting for you. V'alachta lo alecha. We know where you're going. The Torah is saying you have a tent. You're going back to your tent. You're going to find your tent wholesome and complete. So here we see that on the way back also shluchim mitzvah. We don't say, okay, now you left. The guarantee is over. Now they can ransack you. No. V'alachta lo yalecha, because coming back is part of the journey. You can't go there if you're not going to come back. And since the Torah knows you have to go back, so that's essential to the mitzvah. That's part of the mitzvah. The journey is part of the destination. It's not like I'm going back, it's not the mitzvah anymore. That's also part of the mitzvah. Coming back from a mitzvah is also part of the mitzvah. If we already learned that even on the way back, you're not going to have a hezek, so why do I need a pasuk on the way there? It's a chakal v'chaim, on the way back, for sure on the way there. So the Gemara says, you're right. You don't need a special pasuk for that. The truth is that the pasuk v'lo yachmid ishes artzecha, you don't need me to tell you shluchim mitzvein and ezoikin. You don't need it for that because we already learned it from Malach to Le'elach. Look at Rabbi, we need it for the teaching of Rabbi. Rabbi said, Kol adam sheyesh lekarka oila leregel. The chiyuv to be oila leregel to Beis Hamikdash is somebody who owns karka. He owns land in Eretz Yisrael. She'ein lekarka eina oila leregel. If he doesn't own karka, he doesn't be oila leregel because the Torah says, "V'lo yachmid ishes artzecha." In other words, the obligation that shalosh pam b'shana yira kol schuk is only somebody about whom you could say nobody is going to crave your land. If you have karka in Eretz Yisrael, you have a chiyuv aliyah l'regel. If you don't have karka in Eretz Yisrael, you don't have a chiyuv aliyah l'regel. I think from the Sfas Emes once, he said that it's hard to understand why. What's the svara? It's Xeris HaKasav. What's the svara? What's the svara? So the Marsha says, I'm sorry again. I remember the Marsha says a vart, Pashatal, a practical vart. Marsha says, why? Because it has to do with Bikurim. Marsha says the reason is because the main mitzvah of Aliyas L'Regalim is not just to visit, it's to celebrate with the peiros that grew on your land. You have Bikurim that you bring after Shavuos or Tishrei. You have Meiser Sheni that you bring, and you feed them to the Koyanim, to poor people, to converts, to Leviim. And that's how you go up. It's an experience of tzedakah l'shem shamayim. But if somebody doesn't have karka, so he can't observe any of these mitzvahs because he doesn't own produce, so his going up is maybe just for a visit. So then the Torah says you don't have to go up. That's the Marsha's explanation. I saw a vart once from the Sfas Emes, a very interesting vart. Those who own real estate know what he's talking about. He says, when you own karka, you're connected to the world in a different way. When you don't own a house, you don't own property, you're still like floating around a little bit. He says, once you own karka, you have a very strong achiza. You're very strongly connected to the Gashmis. Then you have to be oile regel. Then once in a while you have to uproot yourself and go to Yerushalayim. He says, somebody who doesn't have karka, there's no chiyuv of aliyah l'regel. So that's what you learn from Loyach Medishas Artzecha. And Takashluchim Mitzvein and Nezoikin, you learn from the second pasuk of Alachta Loyalecha, and that's why Rebbe Lezer paskin that Shluchim Mitzvein and Nezoikin Loy Ba'ali Chason, V'Loy B'Chazirasa, not when they go, and not when they come back.
Owning a house qualifies as karka?
No, field. Karka means you own earth. The moment you own earth, you have an achiza.
It says especially about owning a house also.
They say, and I think it's true, that when you buy your first house, something changes. You're like, it's like a certain independence, a certain autonomy, like a certain connection. Like you own something in the world. You own something in the world. You own the karka, you're connected to it in a special way. You don't own it, you live there. Whatever, you rent, you're growing up in a family, you're a child. That's the word, mishesh like karka, there's no chiyuv aliyah l'regel. We learned before, if you remember Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Daf Gimel, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira with the guy who told him he's eating from the Korban Pesach. So he told him you should ask for the aliyah, and they found out, and they killed him. So Taisva says, why didn't Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira be oila l'regel? And his first reason is, shaloi haya like karka. The Taisva Daf Gimel Amid Beis, if you remember, lo haya like karka, he didn't own karka. Because he didn't own karka, it would make sense, right? And we explained also at least one shitta. I think Rabbi Reuven Margolis says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says that he comes from the children of the Atzamas HaYaveshus. Cheskel saw dry bones, and Hashem told him to speak to the bones and resurrect them. It's the Haftarah of Shabbos Cholamayit Pesach, Atzamas HaYaveshus. There's an argument where those dry bones came from, and one of the opinions is they came from Bnei Ephraim, who left Mitzrayim early, and they were killed on the way to Eretz Yisrael through the Philistines. And there were dry bones in Bavel, and Yecheskel had them come back to life. And Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says in Gemarah that I am one of the grandchildren, and the tefillin that I have is from my grandparents, from one of those dry bones at Atzamas HaYaveshus. So that would explain why he wouldn't have karka in Eretz Yisrael, because he wouldn't be able to have karka, because when the Eretz Yisrael was divided, he wasn't part. His family wasn't part of it. That would be one explanation why he didn't have karka. Ah,
What about the boy?
yeah, they weren't by Aretz. Have a wonderful day. Yeah.
Is there anywhere in Hasidus or anywhere that it talks about, I know that Hashem, there's 70 faces to Torah, and there's probably more than one reason for certain mitzvahs.
Of course.
So the mitzvah of B'dika Chumetz, it's also Lamaisa, gets the house clean.
Sprinkler.
Spring cleaning. That's the needle.
Like just for
The needle, back to the needle.
keep animals away, you need to clean it a little
Yeah.
Lamaisa.
Okay.
That also, so Hashem, like they say in the,
But B'dikas chametz is not really cleaning the house. We think of it that way.
but you're getting,
You know the famous expression, they say that there was a woman who came to somebody and she complained about how difficult the preparations for Pesach are. So this Rebbe or rabbi told her, he says, remember two things. Dust is not chametz, and the children are not the carbon Pesach. Yeah. So, we clean dust and we clean the house, which is fine, but Dikas chametz is really just one thing. I'm searching for chametz only in rooms where there may be chametz. If not, no, you don't have to. And I'm just looking for the chametz, that's it.
that is the,
We already go to every book and we dust the books and so on and so forth.
but that is the food for the animals, rodents, and bugs.
It's a good thing to clean your house, but it's not the mitzvah of Dikas chametz.
When we in the morning, they say that's the reason that the Yidden weren't affected so much by the plague, the Black Plague, maybe.
Natilas Yadayim. The Black Plague affected Jews much less because of the hygiene in the Jewish communities. And that's why they suspected the Jews of poisoning the wells, because the Jews weren't suffering as much. The hygiene that halacha introduces, washing your hands in the morning, washing your hands before food, it removed so many possibilities of illness and death by the Black Plague. That's very true what you're saying. That's very true. So B'dikas chametz is a very powerful thing, but the idea of B'dikas chametz is also, it's important to go back 2,000 years ago, or 1,500 years ago, or even 200 years ago. All right, in some places 100 years ago. A person had a little house. They got a little bread. They didn't have pantries of food and food. Starvation was a very real reality. There were no stores. Either you had food that grew, or you bought a little bit, or you didn't have. Right? If there was one season of drought, it could devastate a town, it can devastate a city, it can devastate, what the Soviets did in the Ukraine after the Bolshevik Revolution in the early 20s. I mean, what they did with causing them famine. So as a result of that, it's the night before Pesach. Chazal said, take a candle, go around, and look for chametz, wherever there may be chametz. Yeah, a person had one room, two rooms, yeah? He looked. And if there's a crack, and there's a hole, he looked in the hole, he looked in the crack, if there's no sakam. And that's what he did. We think of it in terms of big houses, and then you have an office, and then you have another house here, and then you have a car, and then you have another car, and then you have a second house. Okay, Baruch Hashem. But really, B'dikas chametz was just, you went around the night before to think, you checked for chametz, and you gathered the chametz, and that was it. There was no surplus of chametz. Very, very rare. Very rare. Amar Reb Avin Bar Ada Amar Reb Yitzchak. Reb Avin, the son of Reb Ada, said in the name of Reb Yitzchak, Mipnei ma ein peiros ginoise b'Yerushalayim. Why don't we have the fruits of a place called Ginoiser, which were very beautiful and praiseworthy fruits? Why don't they grow in Yerushalayim? What are these peiros ginoiser? Rashi says, peiros ginoiser mesukin ma'oid, very sweet. Kedamrinon bebrachas, as the Gemara explains in Maseches Brachas, Daf Mem Dalet. Vahainu kineres shem medina be'eretz Yisrael. Ginoiser was basically the name of a town, a village, that was found in a valley on the west of the Sea of Kinneret. Yam Kinneret in Eretz Yisrael, on the west of the Sea of Kinneret, there was a valley with a village, and it was called Ginoiser. That valley near the Yam Kinneret is also called Kinneret. So this valley, in which the town was built, was known as Bikas Ginoiser, the valley of Ginoiser. It's mentioned in Gemarah a few times, the valley of Ginoiser. And the fruits that grew there were very, very sweet, were very, very delicious. Not only that, the Gemarah says in the beginning of Masechta Megillah that the reason it's called Kinneret is because the fruits around it were so delicious, they were as sweet and as pleasant as the sound, as the music that comes from a kinnor, from a harp. The sound that comes from a kinnor is very beautiful. It's extremely inspiring and sweet to the soul. So the peiros around there were called kinneres because it's like a kinnor. When Yehoshua came into Eretz Yisrael and he divided the territory of Eretz Yisrael, this section went to Shevat Naphtali, to the tribe of Naphtali, and that's why Moshe Rabbeinu says about Naphtali before his passing in V'zos HaBracha, Naphtali svar rotzon. Naphtali was satiated, svar rotzon. His desire was satiated. Molei birkas Hashem, filled with blessing. Yom v'daram Yerusha, basically he lived in the territory of the Yam, of the Kinneret Sea, and south of the Kinneret Sea, Yom v'daram Yerusha. So these are called Peiros Ginoiser, the fruits in this area called Ginoiser on the west of the Yam Kinneret. Why didn't Yerushalayim have such fruits? Or Reb Avin said in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, so that the Jews going up, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot going up to Yerushalayim shouldn't say, if we didn't go up to Yerushalayim only to eat the fruits of Genois is enough. Nimtzis comes out that Aliyah Shaloi Lishma, that the going up to Yerushalayim for Aliyah L'Regel is Shaloi Lishma, completely not for its own sake, for its own purpose. In other words, the Peiros Genoisa was so geschmack, they didn't want to have it in Yerushalayim. The Rebbeinu Shalom didn't put it in Yerushalayim, which could, so to speak, ruin the whole experience of Aliyah L'Regel, because this becomes an independent attraction. If you're going up to Yerushalayim and you say, and it's also geschmack, but it's at Peiros Genoisa, we already learned before that it's called Lishma, like somebody who says, because I want Olam Haba, I want my child. Rashi explains it's still called Lishma. But here, this could become the sole incentive. The sole incentive is a Gavaldic attraction. Let's go eat Peiros Genois. Kayotze boy, similar.
So Genoiser was Yerushalayim?
No. The Peiros of Genoiser grew in Genoiser, which is in the west of Yam Kinneret, near Tveria, near Tiberias.
So coming Aliyah
to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash.
Past Tveria?
No. Mipnei ma, he asked, why are there no Peiros Genois in Yerushalayim? Yerushalayim,
Only in Tveria.
only near Tveria, near Yam Kinneret. The answer is, it shouldn't eliminate the Shalai Lishma.
Were we allowed to sell it in Yerushalayim too?
No, you were allowed to sell in Yerushalayim, but it wasn't the place. That's not where the market was. That's not where it grew. Kayotze boy, similarly. Amar Reb Distoi, Reb Yanai, Reb Distoi, the son of Reb Yanai said. Reb Distoi said in the name of Reb Yanai. Mipnei ma ein chamei Tveria b'Yerushalayim. Why are the hot springs of Tveria not in Yerushalayim? As we know, in Tveria you have hot springs that are very good for a person's health. They also are on the shores of Yam Kinneret, which is near the city of Tveria. Why don't you have these Gavaldic hot springs in Yerushalayim? In other words, since it's the center, what's the question? It's not in Yerushalayim, it's not in Yerushalayim. The question is because since it's the center of Kedusha, the Shekhinah dwells in Yerushalayim, so it's not only the spiritual source of blessing. If it's a spiritual source of blessing, it's also the physical source of blessing. So these great blessings of Eretz Yisrael, why are they not in Yerushalayim? The answer is, Kadesha la'iyu oile regalim oimrim. Again, those who come up should not say, if we came up only to bathe in the hot springs of Tveria, it would have been enough, nimtzis, and it would come out that ha'aliyah, the going up, is shaloi l'shma, v'nimtzis aliyah shaloi l'shma, the going up to Yerushalayim is shaloi l'shma, because the intention And coming to Yerushalayim would be only to enjoy the fruits of Genoiser and to bathe in the hot springs of Tveria, and that Hana would become the primary issue, and Aliyah L'Regel completely subservient.
It sounds very strange, this thing. There must be much more to it, because, like saying, I'm not going to go to a Chasim now because they have limited food there. I don't want to hear go for the food wrong.
I spoke this morning.
And if it was available, we are used to it, then they concentrate on it.
I'll give you a dugma, a different example. There's a mimer from the Alter Rebbe from the Balatanya. He asks a question. The Baal Shem Tov, his earlier years, he would sleep during the day, and he was up at night learning. And as a result, there was a lot of suspicion and rumors that he doesn't know how to learn, etc. So he asks, why did the Baal Shem Tov have to do it this way? And he answers, because it's a very, very powerful answer. He says a connection with a tzaddik sometimes has to be with a munah. You need a munah. You need a munah. What the Gemara is saying is, Yerushalayim could have been turned into a very attractive city. A lot of attractions, a lot of interesting attractions. Chamitveria, Peres Genoiser, yeah. A lot of good ski resorts, beautiful hotels, great spas, great beaches. It becomes a shtickle lot. What would have happened then? What would have happened then was, it would have lost the whole. It would have lost its nekuda. The nekuda, sometimes the lack of attractions allows a person to be able to focus what you're coming here for. What's your primary incentive? Thank you. To give an example from the Golos times, yeah, Chassidim would travel to their Rebbes for Yom Tov. Yeah. I don't have to tell you, you did it too. Pushing, uncomfortable, no normal sleep, no normal food. Why can't you have everybody should be happy. Sometimes the lack of the Gashmias is very, very helpful. It's very conducive, because if it's also comfortable and attractive, okay, we'll go have a good time. We'll go skiing in Mechalamayat. We'll go to Chamitveria. You finish the Seder, you finish the Karban Pesach, and then for the mikveh in the morning, you go to Chamitveria. Once that concept exists, yeah, a person could come and lose sight of the whole experience. When Chassidim came to the Rebbe, there was nothing else, there was no attraction there. If you're looking for any type of comfort in Gashmis, you got the wrong place. Stay home. So when a person came, it allowed him to open himself up to the emes that's here, to the pnimiyas that's here. You typhus what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just thinking about Simchas Beis HaSheva.
Even Simchas Beis HaSheva was beautiful, but the beauty was around the Beis HaMikdash. But it was around the Beis HaMikdash. It wasn't other attractions.
So what I'm saying, there was the lack of.
Yeah. It says they didn't sleep. Now we go to the next stage. Now for here, please go to the Mishnah, the first Mishnah of Beis Amud Aleph. Let's see the Mishnah, and then we'll learn the Gemara. Take a look at the Mishnah. Correct. That was the beginning of the Mishnah. The Gemara finished explaining all these pieces. We explained what Oir is. We discussed the 14th day. We discussed B'dikas Chametz. We discussed the candle. And we discussed the fact that wherever you don't bring in Chametz, you don't have to do B'dik. Then the Mishnah continues. This is going to be the last piece of Gemara now on this Mishnah. Ubameh amru beis shudas b'martiv. We did they say that you have to do bdika on 2 rows in a wine cellar, in a martiv? And the answer is, B'marteif makom shemachnisin by chametz, in a place where you bring in chametz. That's what the Gemara said. B'meh amru, where did they say you have to do 2 rows in a cellar, in a place where you bring in chametz? Beis Shammai yemrim, Beis Shudas al pnei kol hamarteif. Beis Shammai said 2 rows on the face of the entire cellar. Beis Hillel yemrim, shtei shuras achitzonis shein elyonos. The 2 outer rows, which are the top rows. That's the Mishnah. It's a very hard Mishnah to understand. We weren't talking about cellars. What's Beis Shammai saying? What's Beis Hillel saying? So Rashi says, the Gemarah mefarish mahi. The Gemarah is going to explain mahi. Which Gemarah? It's this Gemarah of Chesam et Beis. Shtei shuras achitzonis mefarish b'Gemarah. So now we saw the Mishnah. Let's go back to the Gemarah. B'meh amru Beis shuras. Frag the Gemarah. Martef man dechar shmei. Whoever spoke about a martef. It's not like the Mishnah said a martef, a seller of wine, doesn't need b'dikas chametz. So then the Mishnah should say, Ubameh Amru, when did they say Beis Shudas b'martef, that you do have to be by the chametz? So that's a good question. The Mishnah never mentioned that you don't have to do b'dika in a cellar to ask a question, Bameh Amru. Martef man dechar shmei. Man dechar shmei literally means who mentioned its name. Who discussed martef to be able to say that it needs b'dika or doesn't need b'dika? We never spoke about it. We spoke about and we said, whatever place you don't bring in chametz, you don't need b'dik. It's very strange, especially the language of the Mishnah is uba me amru with a vav. A vav always represents vav hachibur. A vav is a prefix that represents a continuation to previously. Vav, like in English, is and. You write and when you're continuing the previous words. This and this. Uba me amru. And when did they say? What's the and? It sounds like you just said that sellers of wine don't need b'dikas chametz. So now the Mishnah is saying, Uba me, and when did they say you do need? And the answer is, Makom shemachnisim by chametz. We never said you don't need. So what's your question? Ba me amru. Very, very strange Mishnah, because there's absolutely no context for this line, for this sentence. Martef man dechar shmei. And for the Gemarah hachi kamar, now you have to understand the Mishnah as follows. He said, Kol makom shein machnisim b'chametz ein tzarich b'dik. The Mishnah did say every place that you don't bring in chametz to, you don't need b'dik. We explained earlier why does the Mishnah say Kol makom? It could have just said makom shein machnisim b'chametz. So what did the Gemarah say? What's Kol makom? Every place. The word every is superfluous. It's miyusar. It's unnecessary. So the Gemarah explained that it includes oitzeres yayin, storage places of wine, va'oitzeres shemen, storage places of oil. Nami ain't tzarich b'dika. Also doesn't need b'dika. When you say makom shein machnisim b'chametz, you would think only a place where it's not possible to have chametz. So the Gemara said that kol makom shein machnisim b'chametz includes also places where you might have thought that you do bring in chametz. The example was, the Gemara said, holes in a wall that are high, on top of the wall, or holes of the wall that are low, or tall roofs in the house that are slanty, or a roof in the house that's slanty, or a roof in the house that's tall, or a stable for cattle, or a chicken coop, or a storage place of straw, or oitzeres yayin of wine and oil. These are all places you may have not included in the makom shein machnisim by chametz. So the Mishnah says, kol makom, any place, meaning any place where chametz should not be there, you don't bring in chametz, doesn't need b'dik, or even if it goes in there, but it could be, it's probably it was eaten by the animals. That's why, so from kol we learn that even a cellar of wine doesn't need b'dika, because you don't bring in chametz into a cellar of wine. It's not a place where you eat. It's not a place where you store bread. It's a place where you keep wine. Wine is not chametz. That's why the Tana says, Uba me amru shtei shudas b'martev. And when did they say that you have to do b'dikas chametz 2 rows in the cellar? Why does it say Uba me? And because we just said kol makom shein machnisim b'chametz ein tzarich b'dika, and the kol makom included oitzeres yayin, storage places of wine. So Uba me amru, when did they say you do need? And the answer is, and this is the Mishnah answers, makom shein machnisim b'chametz, a cellar of wine, which is a place that you do bring in chametz. When? Uba mistapik. It's talking about a case where it's a cellar of wine where it was common to enter in the middle of the meal and supply the meal with more wine. so that people shouldn't be lacking wine if they want. As we explained earlier, wine is something that even if you prepare the wine before the meal, it often grows with the appetite. And therefore people want more wine, so you sent in your waiter or your shamash into the cellar to bring more wine. It was a type of cellar that you did, this b'mistopic. And he may go with a piece of bread and leave it there and forget it there. And therefore it's a makam shemachlisim mechama. So it's not a contradiction. You have to know what type of closet or cellar of wine it is. A cellar of wine that's off limits, and you go there once a yovel, and it's not a place you would send somebody in the middle of the meal, and you don't need b'dika. But martif, it's makam shemachlisim mechama, you do need b'dika. Granted. Now we come to the machloikas between Beishamai and Beisila. Beishamai says shtei shuras al pnei kol hamartif. Two shurais on the face of the entire cellar. Now, as is usual in the Mishnah, it's very bekitz, it's very brief. What is Beishamai saying? What's shtei shurais al pnei kol hamartif? What does this mean? So, naturally, there's an argument. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, Shtei shuras sha'amru, the shtei shuras that Beishamai speaks about, it's min ha'aretz va'at shmei kaira. It's from the ground until the ceiling. Kaira, the rafters, the beams on top of the cellar, from the ground, at shmei. Shmei is like kaira, the top. Like shmei hashamayim is, the heavens of heavens, the top of the heavens. Shmei comes from the word sham. It's there. It's intangible. It's far away. In heaven itself, it's Shmei Hashemam. So Shmei Kaira means all the way till the top. Shtei shuras. What does this mean? So take a look. At, let's do the second opinion. That's Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yochanan says, no, Shtei shuras is shura achas kamin gam. It's one row, but it has the shape of a gam. Gam is the third letter in the Greek alphabet. The third letter in the Greek alphabet looks like our langechaf, our chaf soifis, that's called gam. The gimel, the third letter in the Greek, in the Lashon Yavanis, in the Greek alphabet, looks like our langechaf. That's what Beishamai means. If you'll see, take a look at the picture, the copies you have, right? Okay. You have a copy?
It's a gamma. In the Greek, it's gamma.
Gamma. In the Greek, it's gamma, right? Gamma. If you take a look first on the picture on the top to the left, my right to your left, the picture on top to the left, you can see the shita of Rabbi Yehuda, right? The shita of Rabbi Yehuda is what's shtei shuras. Shuras doesn't mean a row, one row. It means a whole layer. So it's in the height. Vertically, you have one layer, one full row of barrels, and another full row of barrels. That's where b'dikas chametz has to be. So when you come into the room, it's shtei shuras al pnei chol hamartif. Imagine you're entering into the room here, right? You're entering into the martif here. A person wants to fill up his cellar, his room, his storage place with wine. So how did you do it? You went into the cellar, and you made one row of barrels, right? One barrel, another barrel, another barrel, another barrel, another barrel. The whole thing. And then you stacked up on it, a pile, all the way to the top. And so you continue. Another row, till the entrance. I mean, as much as barrels as you had, as much as barrels as you needed. So you stacked it up in both directions. From one side to the other side, and from the earth till the top. Right? That's how you stacked it up. So Rabbi Yehuda says the shtei shuras al pnei kol hamartif means when you walk into the cellar, right? If I'm walking into the cellar, so take a look. I walk in here to the cellar. So shtei shuras, two complete layers, al pnei kol hamartif, facing the entire martif. In other words, all the wine in front of me, plus one more layer behind it. All the way from the ground till the top. Min ha'aretz ad shmei kaira. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, that's not what you do. Rabbi Yochanan is the other picture, and it looks like a langechaf, you see? Rabbi Yochanan, it looks like a langechaf. That's the gamma, the Greek gamma. Basically, you come if I'm coming in from here, so I have to do the first layer vertically, and the first complete layer horizontally. That's what he says. Shura achas kamin gam. Let's see Rashi. Zok Rashi, shtei shuras shamru. The way that they used to have storage places of wine. You would organize your barrels by lines, shudas. Until you would fill up the entire karka, the entire ground of the martif, right? You had barrels all over the place, the whole bottom foundation. Yeah. And then you do a new layer, just like the bottom layers, you do a new one until you reach the highest point. That's how you did it. But Amri Beishamai comes Beishamai. So ois on shtei shuras chitzonis. Ois sheroyes hapesach al pnei reichav kol hamartiv. The two outer layers, meaning when you come into the door, if I'm walking into the cellar, right? So there's the first layer that I see, royes hapesach, the one that's facing the door, al pnei kol hamartiv. The entire breadth of the cellar, the entire layer of it. I do, v'ashura shalacharel, and the one behind it, tzarich livdoik mina aretz adatikra. And you have to be boidik all the way from bottom to top. And his reason is, when a waiter comes in the middle of the meal to get wine, he's not going to the back to get wine, he's going to the front to get wine. So where would the bread be? The bread wouldn't end up in the back, so this is where you do b'dikas chametz. Rabbi Yochanan says, Shmei koyre kamei shmei hashamayim. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan amar shtei shura shamru beishamai hainu hishura chitzoyne min haaretz va'atikra. The outer layer taka, like Rabbi Yehuda also said, from the bottom till the top, till the roof. V'chayzeru boide kol hachavi yisal yoinos. But now the next b'dikas chametz is the entire layer that is horizontal, al pnei kol arkoi v'rachboi shal martiv, on the length and the width of the cellar. That's also called a shura. If you're looking from top to bottom. In other words, you could look at a shura vertically, you could look at a shura horizontally, right? What's a shura? Is a shura this way, there's a barrel here, and a barrel here, and a barrel here, and a barrel here, right? Or I could say a shura is a barrel here, a barrel here, a barrel here, a barrel here. It's also a shura. There's a row like this and a row like this, because it works both ways. The barrels take up space both ways. So therefore, when Beishamai said, Shtei shuras al pnei kol hamartiv, two shuras on the face of the entire martiv. So Rabbi Yehuda says, what Shtei shuras al pnei kol hamartiv? He looks, the Shtei shuras are the vertical shuras, and the entire width of the martiv going upwards. And Rabbi Yochanan says, one shura on the outside and one shura al pnei kol hamartiv on the top. Kemin gam, he gimel yevonis. This is the gimel of the Greek, the gamma. V'asuya kemin chaf shalanu. It's shaped like our chaf, our lange chaf. Psucha, open. Shura achas kemin gam, hainu shura beskifa. One shura beskifa, v'shura elyoina b'shchiva. One line is horizontal and one line is vertical, like a lange chaf. Ka'adam haboy de kaisel abayis mebechutz v'agag. As a person who's checking the wall of the house, mibachutz, on the outside the wall, amanagag, and the roof. That's what you're doing. Al pnei kol hamartiv, both faces. You're looking from the top to the face, the layer that faces the roof, and the layer that faces the door. When you come in, the layer in front of you and the layer on top. That's al pnei kol hamartiv. That's the shitta of Beishamai. We have a brisa that supports Rabbi Yehuda. We have a brisa that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Tanya kavasei de Rabbi Yehuda. Beishamai yoimrim shtei shuras al pnei kol hamartiv. And the brisa says shtei shuras shamru. These two rows that we're talking about is mina aretz v'shmei koyre. It's from the ground all the way till the roof. This supports Rabbi Yehuda, right? Min ha'aretz v'shmei koyre, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, the second shura is not from the ground till the roof. It's just the top layer. So obviously this supports Rabbi Yehuda's shitta, one layer, and the second layer it's both all the way up, vertically, from the ground till the roof. Tanya Kava said to Rabbi Yochanan, we have another brayso that supports Rabbi Yochanan, Shtei shuras al pnei kol hamartiv. What's the idea of two rows on the face of the entire cellar? It means chitzoina, the outer layer of barrels, which royas hapesach, which sees the door, meaning when I come in from the door, this is what I'm facing. I have to look at the entire height and width of the outer layer of barrels, number one, and shelefonim heimeno, how royes hapesach, ve'elyoiner royes hakoira, and then the top layer which sees the roof. In other words, there's the two faces. The cellar has two ponims, pnei amartiv, two faces. One layer sees the door and one sees the roof, so to speak, if you would coming from the roof. That's why it's called al pnei kol amartiv. What about shelefonim heimena? What about the second layer beyond the first one? Or shelamata heimena, or the lower layer behind the top one? Ain't tzarich b'dika. Vertically the second layer and horizontally the second layer, ain't tzarich b'dika, doesn't need b'dika. This obviously supports Rabbi Yochanan's shit. So we have two ways of understanding Beis Shammai, Machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yochanan, which we already see that the Tanoim themselves argued because there was not clear what Beis Shammai meant. Beis Shammai said, Shtei shuras al pnei kol amartif. Did he mean Shtei shuras both vertically, al pnei kol amartif, when you're coming from the door, that which is standing in front of you, the entire height and the entire width? That's the first shitta, and the second shitta is the langechaf, the entire height of the first layer, which is vertical, and then it's kemin shura achas. Rabbi Yochanan said it's shura achas, even though it says shtei shuras, because it connects. Because according to Rabbi Yochanan, right, the top row is the row both of the vertical and of the horizontal. That's why he says shura achas kemin gam. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's taka shtei shuras. It's two distinct layers, right? According to Rabbi Yochanan, the top, right, the top barrels work for both. They work for Shura Achas and for Shura Shniya. That's why he says Shura Achas Kamin Gam, because it connects through that top layer, because it's both from the vertical and from the horizontal. That's Beis Shammai's shit. Now what's Beis Hillel's shit? Beis Hillel loimrim shtei shuras achitzonius shein al yonos. You have to be boidik, the two external rows. External would mean that which is close to the door on the outside. Shein al yonos, which are on the top, which apparently means the one closest to the roof. So shtei shuras chitzonius shein al yonos. So now we're going to have an argument what Beis Hillel meant. The argument is not going to be Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yochanan. The argument is going to be Rav and Shmuel. But it's interesting, the argument is going to be exactly the same argument, but in the context of Beis Hillel. Amar Rav said, what does Beis Hillel mean? El Yoina. Beis Hillel wants you to be boidik, the outer shura, and here shura doesn't mean layer. According to Beis Shammai, shura means a whole layer of barrels, either vertical or horizontal. Here shura means a row, a line, not a layer, but a line, shura. So he says, but Beis Hillel holds El Yoina, the first shura, the first row they have to be boidik is the top row, which is closest to the roof. That's the first one. V'shalamata heimena, and the one under it. The one under it. So take a look at this picture. This picture, this is the shit of Rav, right? You come in, and what do? You do one row on top, the highest row, it's facing you, right? It's the chitzoyna, it's facing you, and it's the elyoyna at the top, and the one under it. So it's shtei shuras hachitzoyniyas. It's the two outer rows. What do we mean outer rows? They're facing the door, because the other rows are not facing the door, they're behind them. Shtei shuras, it's two rows, the top two rows, shehein ha'elyonis, which are on the top. You don't do the bottom ones, you can do the bottom ones, no, you can do the top. We're doing the top one and the lower one, this picture. That's Rav. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, no. Elyoina v'shalafonim heimeno. You do the top row just like Rav said, that I agree. But the second row is the one behind it. Lefonim means it's inside, it's more inside, it's not outside. That's what you do. So you don't do the top row and the one under it. That faces the door, you do the top one. And again, we're focusing on the vertical direction, on the horizontal direction, not the vertical direction, the one behind that. So this is Rav, and this is Shmuel. So it's very similar to the machlokes of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yehuda is very similar to Rav, because Rabbi Yehuda said it's two complete layers from the outside. Right? Here, we don't say it's two complete layers, it's just two rows. but it's those that are facing you. You don't focus on the top layer. Where according to Shmuel, it's very similar to Rabbi Yochanan, but in the context of Beis Hillel, where you do 2 rows, 1 row on the top, and 1 row, which over there he would agree with Rav, and then 1 row behind that, which is his chiddush, which is similar to Rabbi Yochanan, that you're going on the horizontal side. Zog the Gemarah, my time of the Rav. What's the reason that Rav would say this? Why are we questioning this? Because it l'chayre contradicts the words of Beis Hillel. Beis Hillel said, Shtei shuras hachitzonius shehein ha'elyonos, the top. And according to Rav, it's not the elyonos. The first one is the elyonos, but the second one is under it.
No, that's because there is something beyond.
So he says, diak chitzonius. Because he's medayik on the word chitzonius. He says, shtei shuras hachitzonius. If he would agree with Shmuel, it's not shtei shuras hachitzonius. He wants the shtei shuras hachitzonius on the outside.
They're trying to figure out where the guy must have.
They want to know where you have to do b'dikas chametz. So according to Rav, you do b'dikas chametz only between these 2 rows. That's it.
Assuming that's where the guy.
That's where the bread is. You don't have to go further.
Maybe he started from the bottom or from the back.
It could be.
Assuming that he did it.
You don't have to do the whole cellar.
Right.
Even according to Beis Shammai, you don't have to do the whole cellar. According to Beis Shammai, you have to go through the whole layer. According to Beis Hillel, only 2 lines. So he says, diak chitzonius. Rav is focusing on the word chitzonius. What do you mean chitzonius? That both of the rows are on the outside. In other words, the most external layer of barrels which faces the door. And that's why the higher row, which is behind the first one, is pater, because it's not chitzonius. Ay v'elyonos ktani. It says clearly, shehein elyonos. The answer is, l'meyute tatoye de tateyasa. The elyonos is excluding the rows that are under the second one. In other words, number 2 is not elyonos relative to 1, but relative to 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. It's also elyonos. So l'meyute tatoye de tateyasa. That which is, it excludes the rows which are under the lower one. In other words, from the 3rd and below. Shmuel Amar, Shmuel says, elyonos v'shalafanim heimena. What Beis Hillel meant was the top row near the roof and the one behind it. My time, and why does he hold this way? Why doesn't he agree to Rav? Because it says shtei shuras chitzonius, he should agree with Rav. The answer is diak elyonos. He's focusing on the word elyonos. Elyonos means the 2 rows on the top. And since he wants 2 rows on the top, according to Rav, the second row is not on the top. The second row is only relative on the top. He wants it should be mamash on the top, because that's what Beis Hillel said, elyonos. So that's why he says, no, 2 rows, both the highest rows. The first row on the top that faces the door, and the one behind it on the top. Shein elyonos. Ay v'chitzonius ktani. He also said shtei shuras hachitzonius, and according to him, the second row is not chitzonius, it's not external, it's already on the inside. The answer is l'meyute gaviyasa de gaviyasa. For him, when Beis Hillel said chitzonius, it means relative to that which is even further inside. L'meyute, to exclude gaviyasa, that which is inside, de gaviyasa, within the inside. In other words, it's even more back than the second row, from the beginning of the 3rd row and on. That's the machlokes. Now, you can ask, why does Rav decide to focus on the word chitzonius, and Shmuel decides to focus on the word elyonos? He said both. So Tosfos says, Rav diak chitzonius, nidalari, the Ri holds, the Rav savar, the ikal amedek tfei mechitzonius, mishum the tanan bereisha. Rav says, because the first word of Beis Hillel is chitzonius, shtei shuras hachitzonius shehein elyonos, that's what you should focus on, because that's what he said first. Shtei shuras hachitzonius, the 2 outer rows. So that's why Rav believes that's where the focus should be. He also said shehein elyonos. Okay, ein acharami, because even the second row is still relatively elyon, but the focus should be chitzonius. Ushmuel savar, Shmuel holds the me'elyonos ikal amedek. When you want to be medayik, when you want to explain Beis Hillel, you should focus not on the words chitzonius, should focus on the words Shehein ha'elyonis, which are the higher ones, the top ones. Why? Kiven de elyonis achitzonis kai. Because the word elyonis is referring to chitzonis. Umefarish mahin chitzonis. He says, Shtei shuras achitzonis, shehein ha'elyonis. He's explaining chitzonis through the word elyonis. So elyonis should be the focus. Because elyonis is the ultimate term that he uses to explain what he meant. He didn't just say Shtei shuras achitzonis. Shtei shuras achitzonis, shehein ha'elyonis. So even though, according to Rav, it could make sense, Shtei shuras achitzonis means the two outer rows. So the first thing we know is what? There's two outer rows. That's the first thing. Where? It could be on the bottom. Shehein elyonis. It has to be on the top. So he's focusing on chitzonis. And the elyonis becomes a prat in chitzonis. Mashenk and Shmuel, no. He focuses on elyonis. And the chitzonis becomes a prat in elyonis. The main focus is elyonis. Why? Because that's the pirush. That's the pirush. That's the explanation. He also said chitzonis, ein a chenami. Chitzonis is a din in elyonis. It's a prat in elyonis. It has to be both that are completely on the top. Which ones? You don't go deep inside. You go the outer layer, you go the next layer. The chitzonis, so for him, elyonis is a din in chitzonis, and for him, chitzonis is a din in elyonis. Now you'll ask, man, why does he say this? He says, this Tosfos doesn't say. The truth is, though, that it's not so pashut. It's not stam of art. If you look through the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel, in many, many places in Shas, many of them are brought even in Rashi and Chumash, Rav and Shmuel have hundreds of arguments. And there's a theme that pervades many, many of the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. And one of the themes that you see is that Rav generally likes to focus on the direct meaning of the word. And Shmuel likes to focus on the content, on the theme, on the pirush, even if it's not the direct and straightforward, uptight commentary of the word. I'll give you a few examples you'll see immediately. It says in Parshas Vayeshev that Potiphar was asking Yosef to be with him, and he always refused, Vayemoyen. And then it was one day, and there was nobody home. Vayavoy habaysa lasas malachta. Yosef came home to do work. And ve'ein ish man shehabayis, there was nobody home. And the wife of Potiphar was home, and that's when she came to Yosef and said, Shichvi, me, lay with me, and he ran away. Vayonos vayetze achutza, and the whole continuation of the story. So Rashi brings Rav Shmuel. So now between Rav and Shmuel. So from Gemarah in Masechta Saita Lamed Vav. Rav Amar Melachtoi Mamash. Rav says Vayav Abayis Lasas Melachtoi means he came to do work. Work is work. He came to do work. Shmuel says no. Lasas Tzrochav Nichnas. He didn't come to do work. It's the Torah's way of saying that he came to be with the wife of Potiphar. At the end, he saw the image of Yaakov, his father, the Muz the Yokener Shel Yaakov of Rabbi Chaloin, and he ran away, he abstained. Rav, Melachta means Melachta. Rav takes the word as is. Shmuel is darshaning more. He's looking at the context. He's looking at the pirush of the words. And Shmuel is asking, Torah says, Vayavei abayis lasas Melachta. And nobody was home. Ve'ein ish man shehabayis. What type of melacha is the melacha that you do when nobody is home? There's a certain type of melacha. Or to put it differently, why would Yosef come home to do melacha knowing that nobody else is home besides the wife of Potiphar? Knowing the situation. So Shmuel, in the context, in the Pirush Advarim, he says Melachta means not Melachta Mamash. It means to be with the wife of Potiphar. It says, Parshas Vayera, it says, Vayita Eshel beBe'er Sheva. Be'er Sheva. V'yikasham b'Shem Hashem Ke'elolam. Avram planted an Eshel in Be'er Sheva, and he called out in Hashem's name. Rav and Shmuel argue. Rav says he planted an Eshel, he planted a garden, a pardes, and he used to feed people fruits. Shmuel says no, he planted a hotel. He made a hotel, so people would come and stay, like a bed and breakfast, a motel. He would feed them, and he would explain to them and persuade them. No, the word Vayita means he planted. You don't plant hotels. You build hotels. You plant gardens. Rav says it was a garden. Shmuel looks at the context. Vayikra Hashem b'Shem Hashem Keilolim. Yeah, you can give out fruit, you can give out oranges and peaches and watermelon, but it's at the context. The pirush. Vayikra Hashem b'Shem Hashem Keilolim is he had a whole matzav there. It was a retreat center, a place people came to sleep and so forth. In Parshas Shmois it says, Vayakam Melech Chadosh al Mitzrayim Asher lo yoda es Yosef. A new king arose. He didn't know Yosef. Rav and Shmuel argue. Rav says Chadosh Mamish. A new king. It's a new king. Shmuel says it's not a new king. Nischatshu Gzeiroisov. He had new decrees. Lo yoda es Yosef doesn't mean he knew Yosef. He made himself as though he didn't know Yosef. Nischatshu Gzeiroisov. Mitzad the words Melech Chadosh, Rav is right. Melech Chadosh means a new king. Melech Chadosh doesn't mean, because the concept of a king is to give out decrees, so when there's a new decree, it's like there's a new king. That's a pirush. Mitzad the pirush hadvarim, Shmuel doesn't understand how could somebody not know Yosef. How is it possible? And the Torah doesn't say Vayimlach Vayamas. So mitzad the pirush Shmuel holds it was Nischatshuk Zeh Yosef. In the Megillah it says Vayibe Me'ach Hashverish. Hu Achashverish HaMoilech Me'hoidu V'at Kush. He reigned from Hoidu till Kush. Sheva Ve'esrim Ameya Medina. 127 provinces. Rav says, Me'hoidu V'at Kush means Hoidu is on one side of the world, Kush is on the other side of the planet, and Achashverish reigned from Hoidu all the way till Kush. Me'hoidu V'at Kush. Shmuel says no. Hoidu and Kush are right near each other. Kishem Shemalach Mehoidu Vat Kush, just like he reigned from Hoidu till Kush because they were right near each other, the same way he reigned over 127 provinces. What's the machlokes? Rav says, literally, Mehoidu Vat Kush means from here till here. 127 provinces. So what do you want to say? From here till here. You want to bring out the greatness of his maluchas. Obviously, they were on two sides of the planet, or at least very far away. Shmuel says, Mitzad the Teichin, it already says 127 provinces. So this would be superfluous. So Shmuel says the Torah is actually trying to describe the type of Malucha. That over 127 provinces he had the same influence and power he at least wanted to have, like he had Mehoidu Vat Kush, which are near each other. There's many more examples for this. But the Nekuda you see that Rav always focuses on the Pshat, the literal interpretation, and Shmuel focuses Pirush context. So you see this fascinatingly here in Tosfos. Rav says Chitzonius. The first thing is he says Chitzonius, so therefore Chitzonius. It says afterwards Elyonis. The Elyonis is part of Chitzonius. Tosfos says Shmuel holds you have to focus on Elyonis. Why? Because that's the Pirush. That's the explanation. That's where the commentary is. That's where the Hasbar is. That's where the beer is. That's where the context is. But mainly you focus on Elyonis. Elyonis is Elyonis. Elyonis is the top. It says Chitzonius. Chitzonius is being explained by Elyonis. It has to be both of them Elyonis. Which Elyonis? Those that are more facing the outside one and the inner one. I'll call upon him. That's the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel, how to understand Beis Hillel. Zog the Gemarah Reb Chia Tonik Avaseder Rav. Reb Chia learned in his Braisa the Shitta of Beis Hillel in the same way of Rav. V'kula Tanoi Tonik Avaseder Shmuel. But all of the other teachers of the Braisas, they learned like the commentary of Shmuel. When it says here Tanoim, it doesn't mean Tanoim as we usually say Tanoim for the generation of Tanoim. We're talking about an argument of Rav and Shmuel who were Ameirayim. We're talking about Tanoim are the Ameirayim who were fluent in the Brises and they used to teach them. Tana means somebody who teaches. So the same Brisa was taught by different people in different versions. Reb Chia had a Brisa, and the Brisa, the way it defined Beis Hillel was like Rav. But everybody else who learned the Brisa, they had a different version. They had different words that basically expressed the view of Shmuel. So that's what he says. V'chulu tanoi tanak avaseder Shmuel. All the other teachers of the Brisa, they had a different text in it, which basically supported Shmuel, not Rav. And the Gemara says, V'hilchasa kavaseder Shmuel. The halacha is like Shmuel. Now this is a chiddush because usually when Shmuel and Rav argue, the halacha is like Rav. Besides monetary issues, When it comes to civil issues, monetary, we say halacha karav b'isura, v'chishmul b'mamayna. But besides monetary issues, everything else, the halacha is like Rav. But here, Rabbi Chananel says, they made the halacha like Shmuel, even though you're not talking about money, you're talking about p'tikas chametz, because most of the Tanoim, it says kula Tanoi, all the Tanoim besides Reb Chia, supported Shmuel. The interesting thing is, that if you look in Rambam, Hilchas Chametz U'Matzah, you look at the Rosh, you look at many Rishonim, they paskin like Rav, not like Shmuel. So the Kesef Mishnah says that you have to say that in many Gemaras it did not say V'Hilchas HaKavasei de Shmuel. Because once the Gemara establishes the halacha, the Rishonim would not argue with that. We see it constantly. If the Gemara establishes an halacha, nobody argues with it because this was already accepted in the time of the Amirayim, and then the Rishonim would not argue with it. The fact that so many paskin like Rav, not like Shmuel, means the Kesef Mishnah says this in Rambam. Tosfos Yom Tov says this, that obviously they didn't have this in the text. V'Hilchas HaKavasei de Shmuel. So it remained a machlokes, and therefore many of the Rishonim paskin like Rav, which we can also understand, actually, because the Shamish walks in, like what would you say? If you're the Shamish, you walk in, and where are you going to take wine from? You're not going to bend down on your knees and crawl to the bottom. Why should you? You go from the top to the bottom, especially if it's the height of a person, even a little higher, right? So you'll take from the first row, and then when the first row finishes, you'll go for the second row. And then when the whole row finishes, you may go deeper inside. I mean, it's not, probably different people have different natures, but that's why so many paskin like Rav versus Shmuel, because according to Shmuel, he says when you finish with the first row, where you're going, you go to the row behind it. In other words, you stay on the same height. Rav says you're going downward. So the Gemara says here, Hilchas HaKavasei de Shmuel, but the Rambam and many other Rishonim, including the Rosh, paskin like Rav, Shtei Shuras HaChitzonos, She'ein Elyonos, Shtei Shuras HaChitzonos, and that's where you do b'dikas chametz. So basically you go, and you look through those barrels for bread, and if there's no bread, you're good to go, and you finished your b'dikas chametz in this wine cellar.
And if you find bread, you go further into the barrel?
No. If you find bread, you hit the jackpot, and you can take your bread. Just because you find, if we would be afraid that there's bread behind, we would make you do b'dika there. The point is, we don't assume that there's chametz in a place where there's not supposed to be chametz. Is it possible that your child decided one day to go play there and found a piece of bread and decided to play handball with the chametz with his buddy? Of course it's possible. So if it's a place where kids hang out, then you're right. We're not talking about that. If the base, then it's a different situation. Then it's makom shemachnisin by chametz. If the basis of the fear is the shamish, we don't think he's going to go take the bread and throw it to the back of the cellar. He's a responsible person. The whole idea is that he forgot. In other words, he was focusing on the barrels. He put down the piece of challah, and he was taking out a few bottles. He forgot. That's the idea. So maybe you have to do b'dikas chametz there. Could have even happened a week before Pesach. Could have happened a month before Pesach. Could have happened a day before Pesach. Could have happened the Shabbos before Pesach, whatever it is, or any meal. So therefore, we don't check anywhere else. We just have to check there.
What would be the food?
Shmuel? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's similar to Shmuel. In other words, you do the first row, and then you go on the top.
It would be 10 rows of 15. What's the split you have to do? All the way to the end.
It has to go in and you say it. So it's two different things.
Al pnei kol amartif.
What's the split? Why do you have to do the
All the way till the end.
Because you can go from the top. You can go take it from the top.
You finish the first row.
You have to throw it to the back.
No, it could be he holds at the Sham. You're saying according to Rabbi Yochanan, maybe the Svara would be, you're saying according to Rabbi Yehuda, that makes very much sense. He finishes the first layer and then he goes to the second layer. Maybe Rabbi Yochanan holds that he goes, that some people do it vertically, some people do it horizontally. In other words, he's emptying out the barrels from the top to the bottom. Or this way, so he does both.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.